Alone makes people smile when people say it.
It is one of the great gifts of my extraordinary life.
At 79 years old, Hayley Mills has lived a life most of us can only dream about. From her early days as Disney's Golden Girl to her decorated career spanning over 6 decades, she's seen it all. She's worked with legends, won awards, and charmed audiences around the world. But recently, during a reflective interview, Hayley opened up about something she'd kept close to her chest for over 60 years. She talked about Maureen O'Hara, the fiery Irish actress who played her mother in The Parent Trap, and what she revealed has people talking. Now, if you're expecting some scandalous Hollywood feud or bitter behind-the-scenes drama, you might want to adjust your expectations. What Hayley said is shocking for an entirely different reason. And it says a lot about both women and the world they navigated together.
Very tall. I remember him towering over me, and very gentle and very, very sweet. And really, because he was so very ordinary, I quite forgot that he was the legendary Walt Disney. You know, he really liked children a lot.
I did see her 20 years later at one of those evening dinner do's in Hollywood. It was as if we'd never been apart.
In a recent interview about her remarkable career, Hayley Mills was asked about working with Maureen O'Hara on The Parent Trap back in 1961. The interviewer probably expected a standard response, the usual Hollywood pleasantries about what a professional Maureen was, maybe a funny anecdote from set. Instead, Hayley paused, and then she said something that caught everyone off guard. She admitted that she'd never really talked about Maureen publicly in any meaningful way, not because there was nothing to say, but because what happened between them felt too personal, too sacred to share. For over 60 years, Hayley had kept this part of her life private, but now, at 79, looking back on everything, she felt people deserved to know the truth about Maureen O'Hara. So, what exactly did Hayley say? What happened on that set that she's kept quiet about for so long? And why is she choosing to speak about it now? To understand any of that, we need to go back to 1961, to a Disney soundstage, a moment when a 15-year-old British actress was about to face the biggest challenge of her young career.
Here with your face. What are you gonna do about it?
When Hayley Mills arrived on The Parent Trap, set in 1961, she was riding high on success, but also drowning in pressure. Just a year earlier, she'd won a special Academy Juvenile Award for her performance in Pollyanna. Disney had essentially built their live-action strategy around her. She was the face of wholesome family entertainment, and now they were asking her to do something unprecedented: play twin sisters in the same film. This wasn't just about acting. This was about technical precision, about hitting marks, about performing scenes twice so the camera could capture both characters. For a 15-year-old, even one as talented as Hayley, this was enormous pressure. The studio had invested heavily in this film. They needed it to work. They needed her to work. And then there was Maureen O'Hara. Cast as the girl's mother, Maureen was already a Hollywood institution. She'd been making films for over 20 years by that point. She'd worked with John Ford on multiple classics. She'd held her own opposite some of the biggest male stars in the business. She was, by all accounts, a serious professional who didn't have time for nonsense. You can imagine what that must have felt like for Hayley. Here she was, still essentially a child, trying to pull off this technically demanding dual role, and her main scene partner was someone with Maureen's reputation. Everyone on set was watching to see how it would go. Would the veteran actress have patience for a teenage co-star? Would there be tension? Would Maureen's no-nonsense approach clash with Hayley's youth and inexperience? The first day of shooting, Hayley was understandably nervous, not just about the technical challenges of the role, but about meeting Maureen. She'd heard the stories, heard about Maureen's toughness, her unwillingness to tolerate anything less than complete professionalism. And here was Hayley, 15 years old, about to work alongside this legend. What happened when they first met? Well, that's where things start to get interesting, because the interaction didn't go the way Hayley expected. It didn't go the way anyone on set expected. By 1961, Maureen O'Hara had earned a reputation in Hollywood that was both respected and, let's be honest, a little feared. This wasn't a woman who played by the rules or smiled sweetly while powerful men made decisions about her career. Maureen fought for better roles, for fair treatment, for respect in an industry that often had none for women. She'd come to Hollywood from Ireland in 1939, and she quickly realized that her striking looks were both an asset and a trap. Studios wanted to put her in costume dramas where she could look beautiful and not much else. But Maureen wanted to act, to have real scenes, to work with the best directors. So she pushed back, even when it cost her opportunities. Her partnership with director John Ford is legendary, but it wasn't always easy. Ford was notoriously tough on actors, especially ones he liked. He'd mock them, test them, push them to their limits. Maureen didn't just survive Ford's approach, she gave as good as she got. She stood up to him, she challenged him. And in doing so, she earned his respect and some of the best roles of her career. Then there was her famous friendship with John Wayne. They made 5 films together, and their on-screen chemistry was electric. But off-screen, what made their partnership work was mutual respect. Wayne knew Maureen wouldn't put up with any macho nonsense. She was as tough as any of the cowboys he played, and he loved her for it. Stories circulated about Maureen on set, how she didn't suffer fools, how she'd call out directors who tried to push her around, how she demanded to be treated as an equal, not as some pretty face to photograph. In an era when most actresses were expected to be compliant and grateful for whatever roles they got, Maureen was different. She had standards, boundaries, and the spine to enforce them. So when word got out that she'd been cast in a Disney family film opposite a teenage actress, people wondered how that would work. Disney sets were notoriously wholesome, carefully managed environments. Would Maureen's intensity fit there? And more importantly, how would she interact with young Hayley Mills? The assumption, among those who knew Maureen's reputation, was that she'd be professional but distant, that she'd do her job, hit her marks, deliver her lines, and that would be that. Maybe she'd offer a pointer or two to the young actress, but nothing more. Maureen wasn't known for hand-holding or sentimentality. What actually happened on the Parent Trap set would surprise everyone who thought they had Maureen O'Hara figured out. Because the woman who showed up wasn't quite the person her reputation suggested. From the very first day of production, something unexpected happened. Maureen took an immediate and genuine interest in Hayley. Not in a performative way, not in a look how nice I am to the young star way, but quietly, consistently, and completely out of the spotlight. It started with small things. Maureen would make sure Hayley had eaten between takes. She'd notice when the young actress was getting tired or overwhelmed and would suggest breaks. She'd run lines with Hayley in her trailer, helping her work through the technical challenges of playing opposite herself. To the casual observer, it might have looked like simple professionalism, but there was more to it than that. According to Hayley, Maureen was watching everything, not in a suspicious way, but in a protective way. She was watching how the directors talked to Hayley, how the crew treated her, and how much the studio was demanding from a 15-year-old girl. And when things crossed a line, Maureen would step in. There were moments during production when executives or directors would push Hayley harder than they should have. Long shooting days that stretched a teenager beyond reasonable limits. demands for perfection on technically complex shots that required take after take after take. And Maureen would intervene, not aggressively, but firmly. She'd point out when enough was enough. She'd remind people that Hayley was still a child, no matter how professional she was. What's remarkable is how Maureen did this without undermining Hayley's authority or making her seem fragile. She never treated Hayley like she couldn't handle the work. Instead, she was teaching her something crucial: that you could be excellent at your job and still maintain boundaries. That professionalism didn't mean accepting unreasonable demands. That taking care of yourself wasn't a weakness. Between takes, Maureen would tell stories about her own early days in Hollywood, about the mistakes she'd made, about the things she wished someone had told her when she was starting out. She'd talk about balancing career and family, about knowing when to fight and when to let things go, about surviving in an industry that could be brutal to women. The crew started to notice the dynamic. Here was Maureen O'Hara, the woman known for her toughness and no-nonsense approach, spending hours with the teenage star, clearly invested in more than just getting through the production. Some people were surprised, others were confused. But everyone on set could see that something genuine was happening. Hayley absorbed everything. The way Maureen commanded respect without being cruel. The way she stood up for herself and others without making enemies. The way she balanced strength with kindness, toughness with compassion. These weren't lessons you could learn from a textbook or an acting class. This was real-world wisdom from someone who'd survived and thrived in one of the toughest industries in the world. But there was one particular moment, near the end of production, that Hayley says crystallized everything. One conversation that she's carried with her for over 60 years that shaped not just her career, but her entire approach to life. And when you hear what Maureen said to her that day, you'll understand why Hayley kept it private for so long, and why she's finally ready to share it now. Near the end of production on The Parent Trap, there was a particularly demanding day of shooting. The technical requirements were complex, the pressure was mounting, and Hayley was exhausted. She'd been on set for hours, performing the same scenes over and over to get the split-screen effects right. She was professional about it, never complained, but Maureen could see the teenager was running on empty. During a brief break, Maureen pulled Hayley aside, and according to Hayley, what Maureen told her in that moment changed everything. She said that being professional didn't mean letting people take advantage of you, that Hayley's talent was valuable, that she was valuable, not just as an actress, but as a person. That if she was going to survive in this industry, and more importantly, if she was going to thrive, she needed to know her own worth. But Maureen didn't stop there. She told Hayley that part of knowing your worth meant using your position to protect others, especially those who couldn't protect themselves. That success meant nothing if you became just another person who used power selfishly. That the measure of a career wasn't just the roles you played or the awards you won, but how you treated people when the cameras weren't rolling. And then Maureen said something that Hayley has never forgotten. She told her that Hollywood had a way of making people hard, of convincing them that kindness was weakness and that you had to step on others to succeed. But that wasn't true. You could be strong and kind. You could be successful and compassionate. You could command respect and still lead with your heart. The tough part was holding on to that truth when everything around you said otherwise. For a 15-year-old girl, hearing this from someone like Maureen O'Hara was transformative. This wasn't some Hollywood phoniness or empty advice. This was a battle-tested veteran of the industry sharing wisdom earned through decades of experience. This was Maureen, the woman known for her toughness, revealing that beneath that armor was someone who deeply cared about doing right by others. So here's what Hayley finally revealed in that recent interview, the statement that has everyone talking. She said that Maureen O'Hara was the kindest, most protective presence she'd ever experienced in Hollywood, that Maureen took her under her wing not just as a co-star, but as a genuine guardian who made sure she wasn't destroyed by the industry, that everything Hayley became, every choice she made about how to treat people and use her success, came from what Maureen taught her on that set. And here's why that's shocking. Because it completely contradicts the public image of Maureen O'Hara, the tough Irish actress who stood up to John Ford and John Wayne, who fought with studios and directors, who built a reputation on being formidable and uncompromising. That same woman was quietly, privately, tenderly mentoring a teenage actress and teaching her that power and compassion weren't enemies. After The Parent Trap, both actresses went on to have remarkable careers, though their paths diverged significantly. Hayley continued working for Disney, making several more films before eventually moving away from the studio to pursue more mature roles. She worked in British television, took on stage performances, and built a career that respected her intelligence and range. And if you look at how Hayley conducted herself throughout her career, you can see Maureen's influence. She became known not just for her talent, but for her grace, her professionalism, and yes, her kindness to other actors, especially younger ones. She became the kind of person who paid forward what Maureen gave her. Maureen, meanwhile, continued to be Maureen. She made more films with John Ford and John Wayne. She fought with studios and directors. She retired from acting in 1971, came back for a final film in 1991, and spent her later years writing her autobiography and receiving the recognition she'd long deserved. In 2014, a year before her death, she finally received an honorary Academy Award. The two women stayed in touch over the years, though not constantly. They'd see each other at events occasionally, exchange letters, and check in. But the bond formed on that Parent Trap set never really faded. When Maureen passed away in 2015 at the age of 95, Hayley was among those who spoke publicly about what she'd meant, though even then, she kept the deepest parts of their connection private. If you enjoyed learning about this side of old Hollywood, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories about the legends who shaped cinema. What other classic Hollywood relationships should we explore? Let us know in the comments below.